Hi, I'm Neil and thank you very much for joining me today for a review of Spokes from Radical 8 Games. In Spokes, players take on the role of competing nations aiming for gold in the velodrome, trying to outrace each other to be first across the finishing line. It takes about 30 minutes to play for 1 to 6 players. Special thanks to Radical 8 Games for the loaned review copy. As usual, all faults are definitely my own. Please keep in mind that the gameplay components they're not yet finalised and there could be changes between now and release. What I'm reviewing is the prototype Kickstarter copy that's been sent to me. So let's take you down to the table, show you how the game plays, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, cheers! This is Spokes set up for 3 players. The central board acts as the velodrome, which we dump spokes all over and then move them into the grooves. Each player has been allocated a player board and given one of each spoke colour, which has been placed into the cutout sections of the wheel. They also have a spoke marker, lap counter and slipstream tile. In reverse turn order, players will place their cyclist cylinders anywhere behind the start-finish line. And we're off. On a player's turn, they move their spoke marker 1 to 3 spaces anti-clockwise. Everything in this game is done in an anti-clockwise fashion to keep in with the theme. The last spoke their marker jumped over is taken out and replaces a different coloured spoke on the board, which is placed on your player board in the empty slot. Then the player moves their cylinder along the colour they removed from their player board as far as they can. You can stop whenever you want if you don't want to go the full distance. They can go backwards or sideways, but they can never go over the same spoke piece twice in a turn. The next player, anti-clockwise, has their turn. This continues until a player completes their 3rd lap, at which point the game ends immediately and that player wins. If during a turn a player lands on a space that is occupied by another player, they move backwards to the most recent empty space they move through and flip their slipstream tile over to the active side. From their next turn, they are allowed to use this power once, until activated again, to move along one spoke of another colour during a turn. This could be at the beginning of the movement, the end, or even during the movement. You can even change slipstream activation with landing on another player at the end of your turn, so it is activated and ready for your next turn. There is very little else to explain about how the game plays. There are some variants included, such as a solo mode, team-based variant, or a special 2-bike mode. All are nice and don't drift too far away from the core gameplay. What surprised me about Spokes was how much it felt like an actual velodrome race. It starts off all cagey and players only moving a few spaces, and then builds up speed, and before you know it you're in the final lap and players are whizzing all around the board at record-setting times. This is all due to the board state, which naturally evolves as players place the same coloured spokes to move further and further along the track. What is interesting is that by placing so many of the same colours, they become in shorter supply on your player board, so forward planning is definitely a requirement. The best players will be able to read the board state 2 or 3 goes ahead and will plan to grab the required coloured spokes before they need them, whilst leaving less prepared players wondering what happened to their early lead. I really like the slipstreaming boost, which makes bumping into other players a valid strategy and at some points a necessity for victory. The race feels tense throughout and players can pull off surprising last-ditch moves to grasp victory when defeat looked all but certain. To be able to provide this level of excitement with so few rules is a real testament to clever design. So, in terms of gameplay, Spokes is great, as is the rulebook and overall components. The only complaint I have is in the setup of dumping all of the spokes and then moving them into position at the start of the game. It takes a little bit too long. I understand there probably isn't a more elegant way of doing this, and if everyone around the table chips in it can go a lot quicker, but it still felt a little too long for the short gameplay experience. I enjoy the overall look of Spokes with its bright colours and distinct art direction. No one I've taught this game to found the look distracted from the gameplay, although several people assumed it would be a cold abstract game until I explained the rules, and at which point they were pleasantly surprised to find themselves playing a straight up racing game. I preferred my games of Spokes with higher player count as there was more board manipulation, slipstreaming opportunities and position changes throughout the race. However, Spokes still plays well at 2 or 3 and I would happily play or teach the game for that many people. Spokes will be on my Kickstarter alert notifications when it goes live, as this is a game I am sad to be passing on to the next reviewer. There is very little I would change about the game and I hope it does well when it goes live. My rating is it's definitely a game I'll be following, and if you like racing games you should too. My Board Game Geek rating is currently 7.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching my video. I'm Neil and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Cheers!